Tonight on Ukraine Today. A strike on Russian oil. Ukraine's defense forces hit an oil pumping station in Russia's Bryansk region. NASA satellites recorded the fire. On the battlefield, Ukraine has deployed extra troops and equipment to stop the enemy's advance. Behind the scenes of the Spiderweb operation, the head of Ukraine's security service, Vasyl Maluk, shared fascinating details. The goal of the Alaska summit. White House officials revealed why Trump is meeting with Putin. All that and more right now. Hi there, my name is Volodymyr Robchun. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let's get to the news. Ukraine's defense forces struck the Transneft Druzhba oil pipeline pumping station in Russia's Bryansk region, the General Staff reports. The strike caused a massive fire spotted by NASA satellites. Russian so-called media also claim there was an attack on the Volgograd oil refinery. In the past few days, Ukraine has successfully hit multiple facilities of Russia's military-industrial complex. The question is, why now? What allowed Ukraine to strike these targets so effectively at this moment? And what is the total damage the aggressor is taking from such attacks? More on that coming up.
What's going on? What's going on?
Huh? It's nothing serious.
Are they flying? Where? Where are they flying to?
Fires at factories and closed airports. That's how August began in Russia. Intensity and efficiency. Every single day, Ukrainian armed forces consistently strike Russian military targets or defense industry enterprises and subsequently report successful attacks on unique and significant defense plants located within Russia itself. These attacks have exposed problems within the Russian Federation's military-industrial complex and caused panic among Russians.
The explosion is making my health worse. What should I do? Did it pierce your fingers? Oh my God! You need to get out of here.
Thanks to the Ukrainian Defense Forces, the only Russian plant producing helium for rockets in Orenburg was hit. Local residents reported a series of explosions. The M5 highway was blocked. The Orenburg helium plant processes up to 15 billion cubic meters of gas per year and produces helium, which is critically important for rocket engineering, as well as the space and aviation industries. Helium plays a key role in rocket launches. This plant is an important facility for the Russian military-industrial complex directly involved in the aggression against Ukraine. In Yaroslavl, a major fire mysteriously broke out in the building of a paint and coatings company that produces materials for Russia's military-industrial complex. Another strategically important enterprise was attacked in Tatarstan. The distance from the state border with Ukraine is more than 1,000 kilometers.
What is that?
Guys, I made it in there.
It went directly to the side, moving swiftly and precisely.
UAVs reached the workshops in Yalabuga. Here, on the territory of Yalabuga, is the headquarters of the company that manufactures combat drones.
Hey, to us!
In 2024, the plant significantly expanded the production of Iranian-designed strike and reconnaissance drones using Chinese components and recruiting Russian teenagers for work.
There you go. There you go.
The defense forces gave Stavropol's Monocrystal an explosive night. Monocrystal specializes in the chemical industry, producing synthetic sapphire for optoelectronics, which is used in military equipment.
It's going. We hit it. Yeah, we hit it. We hit the oil depot. Here's our air defense. Damn. Glory to Russia. That's all.
Monocrystal also produces silicon carbide, which is used in armor protection, radars, and military electronics. Monocrystal fulfills state defense orders for the Russian Federation. Eyewitnesses recorded smoke on the factory grounds. Official authorities confirmed the drone threat but did not provide information about damage to the plant.
It's flying! It's flying!
Очевидцы зафиксировали дым на территории завода. Официальные власти подтверждали угрозу.
It's firing!
Но информацию о повреждениях завода
1,000 each.
In the city of Arzamaz, Ukrainian drones recently launched an attack on a significant instrument-making plant.
One of the country's leading enterprises in the defense industrial complex with a 60-year history. The plant produces devices for the aviation, missile, and space industries.
The Arzamaz plant produces gyroscopic instruments, control systems, onboard computers, as well as key components for the KH-32 and KH-101 cruise missiles. In 2020, the plant was awarded the National Golden Idea Prize in the field of military technical cooperation. The plant is under sanctions from the US and the European Union. Before the successful attack, a note appeared on the Vysoda resource, which covers news of the military-industrial complex, stating that the plant had acquired new equipment. Now, the press service of the Arzamaz instrument building plant is sending out letters in public forums demanding that no one write about the attack, even threatening consequences. Russian defense industry enterprises working for the war against Ukraine are absolutely legitimate military targets. Successful attacks by Ukrainian forces help to reduce the military capabilities of the aggressor country's army. The work to demilitarize facilities that produce weapons for terrorizing peaceful Ukrainian cities continues and is becoming increasingly intense.
Ukrainian forces have cleared the southern outskirts of Stepnohirsk in the Zaporizhzhia region, where enemy troops have slipped in earlier. According to Deep State, the Ukrainian military eliminated the remaining occupiers and focused on restoring and securing positions. Ukraine has deployed additional troops and equipment to stop the enemy's advance in the Dobropilla and Pokrovsk directions, the General Staff says. In the Pokrovsk sector alone, Russian forces have concentrated over 110,000 troops. Despite heavy losses, they are still trying to infiltrate Ukrainian defenses with sabotage units and small infantry groups. In the past 24 hours alone, Russia has lost at least 890 soldiers killed and wounded. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, that's already 1,066,110 troops. Also in the last day, Ukraine's defense forces destroyed 1 Russian tank, 8 armored vehicles, 23 artillery systems and dozens of other pieces of enemy equipment. One 19-year-old Russian occupier was captured by Ukrainian troops. He says he went to war to avoid prison time and for money. He had been on the front for about a month and a half. His 4-man group was hit by a drone drop. 3 died. He survived and ended up in captivity.
I went to serve because when I was in prison, I had 11 months left, but they were adding another 4 to 6 years. They just kept adding new charges, new cases.
The head of Ukraine's security service, Vasyl Maluk, shared intriguing details about Operation Spiderweb. This was the destruction of a significant part of Russia's strategic aviation. He spoke about unique drones, a logistics company Ukrainian agents set up, renting an office right next to the local Federal Security Service headquarters, the agents' evacuation, and even how the mission was delayed because of Russian truck drivers' drinking habits.
It happened so that we implemented it on the 1st of June, but there were some ideas to do it much earlier. It's kind of a note of humor. We planned to do it before May 9th, but they went on a binge for Easter. Sorry, yes, they abused alcohol heavily. Then on the 1st of May they had their May holidays, and they were out for a week, just lying around absent. Then came the 9th of May. So honestly, we lost a whole month, I'll be frank with you, because of this main reason.
Belarus and Russia are actively preparing for their joint West 2025 military drills. The West is trying to figure out Moscow's and Minsk's real intentions. After all, we are talking about the sneaky dictator Putin and his sidekick Lukashenko. So, should we expect another attempt to invade Ukraine from Belarus?
Several hundred Russian soldiers have arrived in Belarus.
That's why this escalation is dangerous. We need to put a stop to it.
But of course, they didn't just arrive for no reason. It's according to schedule. Joint exercises between Belarus and Russia are planned for September. That's why they're moving around. The arrival of the first hundreds of servicemen and several dozen pieces of equipment was reported by Andriy Demchenko, spokesperson for the State Border Guard Service.
However, their number is not large. This applies to both equipment and personnel that have already been transferred to Belarus. At the same time, we also see that Belarus is sending some of its own forces to Russia, which will be involved in these exercises. After all, as far as we understand, the exercises will take place both in Belarus and in Russia.
But it's interesting, what is the purpose of this exchange of military personnel? Maybe they're exchanging experience?
There are 3 types of exercises. I can't recall their names. I think they're called Zaslon, Rescue 2025. But overall, it's all called Zapad 2025, and within it, there are 3 types of these exercises. It's quite possible that these movements are related to the fact that part of the exercises take place on the territory of Belarus, part on the territory of Russia, and basically that's how it works out.
These are far from the first exercises of this kind. But no matter how you look at it, the risks for Ukraine always remain.
Especially during the active phase, which is scheduled for September. The risks and threats to our country will increase.
Nevertheless, Ukrainian intelligence is closely monitoring the movements and actions of Russian troops in Belarus. But can we really say that these are just routine exercises?
If the number of these troops being moved to Belarus exceeds 5,000, getting closer to 10,000 or more, that will mean, oh, something is definitely brewing here. The Russian Federation most likely has some kind of plan. Again, if it's 3, 4 or 5,000 people, then that's really nothing to worry about. Oh, come on, please. This is just some trivial matter. There's no talk of any invasion.
Of course, in Moscow itself, they claim that the exercises will supposedly be purely defensive in nature and are aimed at practicing actions in the event of possible aggression against the so-called Union state.
There will be no structures left. The Russians will slowly bite off all of this, seize it, and then go on and recapture it.
They will return.
Well, they will return it, yes. Here.
But if not for Ukraine, then for the Baltic countries, the risk is also great. After all, the Russian Federation has already begun to jam communications there.
The Estonians say that a third point has appeared. It's 20 kilometers from the city of Narva. Narva is an Estonian city. Yes, it's disputed, but the Russians have set up a new point 20 kilometers away, and the scale of the work of these electronic warfare systems has increased even more. As for me, this really is a threat, and the Russians also boasted that when they turn on all their electronic warfare systems at once, they'll shut down communications, and no one from these Baltic republics will be able to get in touch or transmit information. And at that moment, our troops will move in and do what was once done in Donbas.
But the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian armed forces also expressed his own suspicions. Syrskyi warned that under the cover of these exercises, an offensive troop grouping could be formed.
That is, if such a quantity of shells is detected, tens of thousands or even 100,000, oh, that's a bad sign. If field hospitals are being set up, a large number of field hospitals, not just for some soldier who accidentally shot himself in the foot and came to the infirmary to get bandaged, but if there are many hospitals, those tents, then, uh-oh, that means something. Some intercepted communications, someone carelessly made a call, say the radios aren't working. So he picks up the phone and let's say calls his wife. So these different moments, of course, can reveal the whole plan.
But here's what's interesting. Earlier, the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Belarus reported that they had decided to reduce the scale of the exercises and move their main maneuvers deeper into the country. And all this is so that the world can see the sincere, peace-loving stance of the Republic of Belarus.
On the one hand, that sounds like, okay, not bad, thank you. But if you open a map and measure Belarus with a ruler, both from south to north and from west to east, Belarus is the same in both directions. It's approximately 500 kilometers. Imagine that this distance is 250 kilometers, let's say. How long would it take to cover it? Well, that's nothing at all, just a couple of hours by car. Today, for example, they are in the center of Belarus. And tomorrow, not even tomorrow, but by evening, they could be at the borders.
Whatever Russia and Belarus may be planning under the guise of exercises, Ukrainian intelligence is closely monitoring the situation, and any troop movements near the border will not go unnoticed, and in the worst case, will not go without a response.
Ukraine is fighting for freedom. Support independent Ukrainian journalism so we can keep telling the truth about Russia's war. Click the link in the description to become our sponsor. And now is the perfect time to remind you to subscribe. Please hit that button. Give this video a like and share it if you find it interesting. Thank you. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy has arrived in Berlin. There he is set to meet with EU, UK and NATO leaders, hold a video call with US President Donald Trump and join a Coalition of the Willing conference. A trilateral meeting between Zelenskyy, Trump and Putin is in the plans, but no date has been set yet. President Zelenskyy says the Alaska talks between the US and Russia will matter only for their bilateral relations.
Nothing about Ukraine can be decided without us. I truly believe and hope that the President of the United States understands this. Of course, we will have a meeting at the leaders' level, a trilateral one. I don't know the date yet, but if we want to end this war, that's exactly what will happen. And there, different issues will be raised, standing on the truth, on our truth, and of course, doing everything possible to end this war. There are things you hold in your heart, and there are things you hold in your constitution.
Meanwhile, we have learned where exactly Trump and Putin will meet in Alaska, in the city of Anchorage. And not just anywhere, but at the US joint base Elmendorf-Richardson, CNN reports. According to the publication, the list of possible venues shrunk due to Alaska's peak season and because of Putin's arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court for war crimes in Ukraine. White House officials say the summit's goal is to better understand Russia's position to achieve peace in Ukraine. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio even said that for President Trump, it's a way to look this man in the eye, assess the situation and make decisions. Early in his political career, President Zelenskyy also wanted to look Putin in the eye. I'm sure his view of the Russian dictator has only worsened since. It might be the time for Trump to go through the same experience. Meanwhile, in Alaska, a state of emergency has been declared. Residents of the state capital are being urged to evacuate due to an expected flood. If it's not a sign from above to cancel this meeting, I don't know what is. Russia is openly threatening Azerbaijan with war. Baku, in turn, is discussing the possibility of providing military aid to Ukraine. More on the developing Azerbaijan-Russia conflict in our next story.
The special military operation has no boundaries and can take place anywhere, even in the Caspian region. Kremlin propagandists have started issuing warnings to Azerbaijan. Solovyov, Gurulev and others are threatening to go after Azerbaijani entrepreneurs in Russia and possibly even carry out a so-called special military operation like the one in Ukraine.
And soon, the Caspian may find itself in a situation where NATO bases could appear there. And this is so dangerous that from a geopolitical standpoint, it could lead to consequences that might make this not the last special military operation of our generation.
If we also start putting pressure on the local guys here who are engaged in some questionable businesses, then things will change dramatically. It could become even more intense. I can't quite grasp it, but there are other ways it could go. The term special military operation is quite flexible. Flexible along the entire border of the Russian Federation.
The reason for such hysteria is the agreements reached between Ilham Aliyev and Nikol Pashinyan. Azerbaijan and Armenia have renounced territorial claims against each other and signed a peace agreement in Washington.
The parties, in their international relations, refrain from the use of force or the threat of its use against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations.
Undoubtedly, this already marks a break in relations with the Kremlin, and the aforementioned document from November 9, 2020, the trilateral one, where Putin acted as mediator, is essentially now a thing of the past. In any case, that's how it is perceived in the South Caucasus, in Azerbaijan and in Armenia. It is clear that 5 years later today, the geopolitical situation has changed. Today, the United States is acting as a mediator, and the entire configuration, the geopolitical configuration in the South Caucasus is changing.
Russia does not agree with this turn of events, and in the South Caucasus, a new round of tensions with the Russian Federation is expected. On the night of August 6th, Russian UAVs attacked the Olovka gas complex station in the Odessa region, through which Azerbaijani gas enters Ukraine. 2 days later, on August 8th, Russian drones attacked the Sakar oil depot in the Odessa region, injuring 4 company employees. The next day, Ilham Aliyev spoke with Volodymyr Zelensky and accused Russia of Putin's strikes on Azerbaijani facilities in Ukraine.
During the phone conversation, the parties condemned Russia's targeted airstrikes on the oil depot owned by the Azerbaijani company Sakar and other facilities of our country on Ukrainian territory, as well as on the gas transmission station transporting Azerbaijani gas to Ukraine. They also emphasized their confidence that this would in no way lead to a suspension of cooperation in the energy sector between Azerbaijan and Ukraine. Press service of the President of Azerbaijan.
Aliyev also ordered $2 million to be allocated for humanitarian aid to Ukraine.
All of this is part of the ongoing confrontation between Russia and Azerbaijan, which began precisely with that plane crash and continues to this day. And then there was the most recent summit in Washington. In other words, there is a geopolitical confrontation underway, tensions have arisen, relations have become strained, and now it doesn't even matter what the cause is or how things are there at the moment. Strikes on the airbase, on the oil depot, it's all just part of it.
Azerbaijani media, citing government sources, report that if Russia continues its aggressive policy toward Azerbaijan's interests, official Baku will begin to consider lifting the embargo on supplying weapons to Ukraine that are currently in its arsenal. Although Russian military correspondents claim that Azerbaijan has already long since made the decision in favor of supplying weapons to Ukraine.
Given that, according to a number of sources, Baku is already ramping up production of 120 mm and 150 mm artillery shells for subsequent shipment to Ukraine, the decision has, in any case, already been made. The only question is how this will be carried out, openly and directly, or through a chain of intermediaries and front companies.
There have already been multiple issues in interstate relations between Russia and Azerbaijan. For example, in July of 2022, there was information that Azerbaijan was supplying guided aerial bombs, specifically supplying mortars, 82 millimeter ones, or other artillery shells. At that time, Azerbaijan said that supposedly it wasn't the Ministry of Defense doing this, but private companies, as if Azerbaijan were some kind of Germany, where private military companies can be involved in arms supplies.
Azerbaijan has openly chosen a new ally, the United States, and Ilham Aliyev is no longer afraid of threats from the Kremlin and is ready for open confrontation. If previously arms supplies to Ukraine were kept secret, now Azerbaijan plans to openly provide weapons to Ukraine to fight against the Kremlin. And Putin has in fact completely lost his influence in this region.
And finally, the Kremlin's decision to restrict citizens' internet access has caused serious problems in the financial sector. People and businesses are emptying their bank accounts and switching to cash. Details next.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Russians are starting to withdraw their savings from banks en masse. In just 2 months, June and July, the outflow of cash amounted to 200 billion rubles per month. These are the official figures from the central bank. And the regulator even admits the reason for the withdrawal of money is the internet shutdowns.
This demand is slightly higher than in previous years. The deviation may be related, among other things, to the desire of the public and businesses to build up a cash reserve for transactions amid news about new legislative measures concerning payment monitoring, as well as temporary internet shutdowns in certain regions.
But the central bank was not entirely truthful about the temporary shutdowns. Internet shutdowns in Russia have already become widespread and prolonged. Since May, the internet has been shut down at least 2,830 times, with more than 2,000 of those occurring in July.
A great many businesses operate thanks to people having internet access. And it's not just financial services, although that's perhaps the primary example, but also, for instance, let's take taxi services. Taxis operate because there is internet, because people can use online calls to set the pickup and drop-off addresses, and the entire service is ordered through the internet. In other words, taxi services run on internet-based platforms. Naturally, financial services as well. Many money transfers are made possible thanks to the existence of the internet.
As a result, Russians don't want to be left without money in the event of an internet shutdown. People started withdrawing funds from banks, but to be fair, 400 billion rubles over 2 months is not a huge loss for the banks.
The important thing here was the trend. If this is just a short-term phenomenon, then let's say it doesn't really mean much. But if this is a significant trend that continues to grow and expand, if it's currently 400 and then it could potentially reach up to 4 trillion or even 5 trillion, which would already represent at least 10% of the entire situation, then let's just say that would undoubtedly be an extremely unpleasant and undesirable scenario to contemplate.
And it seems that the trend will indeed continue to grow. There are no plans to abandon the shutdown of mobile internet in Russia. Moreover, the restrictions are becoming even stricter. If previously we were talking about shutdowns lasting several hours or even days, now we're talking about weeks without internet, and in one region, even months. We're talking about the Nizhny Novgorod region. In some areas of this region, there has been no mobile internet for more than 2 months. There are also problems with mobile connectivity.
The most significant mobile network outages have affected residents of Dzerzhinsk and neighboring settlements. Svetlana, a source for Meduza, says that at the end of June and the beginning of July, when the mobile shutdowns had just started, cell phones in her neighborhood also stopped working. People couldn't call an ambulance, nor could they contact utility services. My neighbor had a burst pipe that leaked down several floors, but she couldn't call the emergency service.
At first, local authorities remained silent about the shutdown, but after a month of isolation, some cities finally acknowledged the situation. Yes, it's not easy and it makes work much more difficult, wrote the local governor Gleb Nikitin. Mobile internet never came back. The situation is made worse by the fact that many Russians simply didn't have wired internet at home. While there was mobile internet, there was no need for it, but now providers simply can't keep up with the demand.
My acquaintance was told, "Don't expect to be connected anytime soon, you'll have to manage on your own for now," says Anna, a resident of Viksa. As Meduza found out, the home internet provider in Viksa cites a shortage of staff. They suggest leaving a request for connection and waiting for a call no earlier than the end of September.
The situation in the Nizhny Novgorod region is already being called a kind of experiment, and people are being urged to pay attention to how the locals are living. After all, many will find their experience useful. And considering the latest statistics on shutdowns, the internet is being turned off more and more often and for longer periods, which means that Russians really should prepare for the fact that the patient, meaning the internet, will be more dead than alive.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your support. Strength to Ukraine's defenders. Glory to Ukraine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and share this video. See you next time.